This conference will now be recorded.
Chaturmukha samarambham Vakbhadacharya madhyamam Asmadacharya paryandam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ragadirogan sadada anushaktan asheshakaya prasrutan asheshan Aulsukya moha aradidan jakhana Yo purva Vaidyaya Namostu tasmai. So namaskaram to one and all of you. We'll be continuing with our Dravadravya Vidnyaniya chapter. We have covered up to the Kshirodbhava Navanitam. That is what we discussed in our last session. Now we will be seeing Kritam. Maybe the celebrity Sneham in Ayurvedam, Kritam. Let us see what is there in the text. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Shastam dhi smriti medhagni bala ayush shukra chakshusham balavrittha praja kandi saugumarya swararthinam shatakshina parisarpa shastragni glapitatmanam vadapitta vishonmada shoshalakshmi jvarapaham snehanam uttamam Shidam Vayasasthavanam Param Sahasravidyam Vidhibhihi Kritam Karma Sahasrakrit. In the last two lines, there is a Padhabhedam, there is another version. Snehanam Uttamam Shidam Vayasasthapanam Kritam Sahasravidyam Vidhibhi Shrutam Karma Sahasrakrit. That seems to be more logical and more explainable also. So there are two versions for the last two lines. Now we will see what is told regarding the Kritam. Kritam is prepared by heating the Navanitam. Of course, I don't think that I can explain the procedure of doing or preparing good quality Kritam orally, because it needs a lot of experience. It is not something which can be mastered by a verbal or an oral or online training. You have to do it, then only it can be made properly. We find a big list of properties while explaining Kritam here. It starts with the Shastam. Shastam means excellent, somewhat excellent, Prashastam. So Kritam is told as excellent for the first line, Dhi, Smriti, Medha, Agni, Bala, Ayu, Shukra, Chakshusham. So for all these things, Kritam is excellent. So excellent means Kritam can increase all these elements. It can increase Dhi, Smriti, Medha, Agni. It is very famous that Kritam, in spite of its Shida Vidyam, is Agni Krit, which is always given as an example for Prabhava. Then it increases Balam. Balam is can be equated with the terms like Ojas and also Vyadhikshamata. Vyadhikshamata. Then Ayuh. Ayus. Shukravruddhikrit. Then it is chakshusham, it is chakshushyam. Shastam for chakshus. So it is chakshushyam as well. In Netra Roga Chikilsa, we find the liberal use of kritam. Maybe the most liberally used sneham in Netra Chikilsa is kritam only for various purposes, internal as well as external. Then the mental faculties, dhi, smriti and medha, that is can be enhanced by the use of kritam, agnikrit. Then good for balam, ayu, shukram and chakshus. Then the next line also can be connected with that shastam. It is excellent in certain people. Bala, vruddha, praja, kandi, saukumarya, swararthinam. Arthin means somebody who desire to have something. Arthin. So kritam is excellent in bala as well as vruddha. So a sneha which is good in bala and vruddha alike is kritam. Bala is asamburna dhadu. So kritam is good for making the dhadus sampurna. Vruddha is jirna dhadu. So kritam is good for topping up the decreasing sneha in the dhadus. So it is good for consumption in both alike. Then kritam is excellent for those who are who desire to have praja, offspring, apatyam, tadarthinam. Arunadatta comments, Sukrasya sabhaladakaram ityarthaha. Sukrasya sabhaladakaram. So krita can be used in the treatment of conditions like anapatyata. Then bala, vruddha, praja, kandi itself. Saukumaryam is some way or other can be translated in this context as sukumarasya bhavam. Saukumaryam. Kumaraha, sukumaraha. So the ideal kaumaram, youthfulness, is called sukumaram, and sukumarasya bhavam saukumaryam. So to attain saukumaryam, the best of its class of youthfulness, you can consume kritam. Interestingly, this saukumaryam is used with a negative shade of meaning as well. They are very fragile in terms of the morbidity level. They tend to be morbid very fast. So that notion is also there. Vyayamad adhinavavi mrinalavadupasnute glanim yad adhigam vastu sugumaram taduchyate. So that is the Sugumara Sharira, the definition, or somewhat like a defining Sugumara Sharira. Vyayamad adhina. So two types of stress, physical as well as mental. Mrinalavadu pastude glanim yad adhigam vastu. So even with the mildest stress, physical or mental, if a body gets tired, fatigued very easily, such body is called Sugumara Shariram. So Saukumaryam is used with a negative notion as well, but here we will take it in the positive sense only to maintain or to sustain the youthfulness is what what we mean here. Then Swararthi, Swaram, the pleasant voice, or the maybe melodious voice or sharp voice or whatever is strong voice. So they may take kritam. Those who prefer to have all these things, they may consume Khritam. Then the next line, Kshatakshina Parisarpa Shastra Agni Glapidatmanam. It is Shastam. Shastam for all these conditions. They are many a times related with the Adura Vrutta many a times. So Kshatakshina. Kshatakshina. It is good in Kshatakshina. Parisarpam. Parisarpam is Visarpa. And those who have undergone Shastra Karma and Agni Karma. Shastra Agni Glapitaha. Glapitaha Kshinitaha with the Shastra Karma and Agni Karma. You prescribe Khritam. Consumption of Khritam is excellent. Then the next line shows its capacity in general. It is Vada Pitta Shamanam. Vada Pitta. And good in, or it can cure conditions like Visham, Unmadam. Then Shosham, it is good in Shosham, Shoshaharam, Shoshabaham. Then Alakshmi. Alakshmi is generally used as maybe Papma or something like that. So it can pacify the ill effects of Alakshmi as well. And it is Jaram, Jarabaham, Jaraharam. Khritam is Jaraharam. When we explain these sort of things like it is Vishaharam, Unmadaharam, good in Shosham, etc., we should also note one important point, that the Khritam in all these conditions is used in a highly stage-specific, avasthanusari manner. It cannot be prescribed offhand. In Visham, for example, we find many situations where Khritam is used. All the Agada preparations are generally advised as Krita Mishritam, mixed with the Khritam. Many Agadam we can find. And one very important use of Khritam, what we find in this Jangama Visham, Sarpa Visham, is its use as Hridayavaranam. Hridayavaranam. That is its capacity to shield the Hridayam. Hridayam is Chedanasthanam. In Visham, protecting the Chedanasthanam is very important in the beginning itself. Visham Karshadi Tikshnatvad Hridayam. Because of its Tikshnada, Visham Karshadi Hridayam. So protecting or the shielding the Hridayam is very important. Visham Karshadi Tikshnatvad Hridayam. Tasya Guptaye, to shield, to cover, to mask, to protect, to guard the Hridayam from the attack of Visham. Pibed Khritam. Pibed Khritam. So that is a very interesting usage of Khritam. There are many things to be discussed with the Khritam. We will find the types of consumption or the ways of consuming Khritam in different dosages for different purposes and everything in Sneha Panavidhi. Then this is Hridayavarana. Hridayavarane tasya shleshma hridi upachiyate. That is the target. Tasya hridi. When you give this Khritam in the form for the Hridayavaranam, tasya hridi, in the Hridaya of that victim, Shleshma upachiyate, there will be a type of unprecedented surge of Shleshma in the Hridaya. And that surge, of course, it is not supposed to be maintained all throughout, because again, it can create its own ill effects. But for the time being, that surge in the status of Shleshma in the Hridaya is going to shield the Hridaya from the attack of Visha. So that is how it is very essential, very interesting way of using Krida in Visha. I mentioned already something about the Snehavana Vidhi. In Snehavana Vidhi, we can find 4 types of Snehas and explained for the most popular usages. Sarpir Majja Vasatailam Sneheshu Pravaram Madam. Then among these 4 types of Sneha, the best is selected. Out of the shortlisted 4, the first place goes to Kritam. Tatravisuttamam sarpihi samskarasya anuvartanad. Samskarasya anuvartanam, that is a special property of Krita. Samskaram. Samskaro hi gunandaradhanam. It can impregnate itself with the properties of other dravyas when it is properly processed. That is called samskaram. That processing is called samskaram. Meantime, maintaining all the good qualities attributed to the Krita. Samskarasya anuvartanad. Then madhuryad. Madhura rasam is having certain unique properties as far as the dhadus of sharira are concerned. Ajanmasapyad. Madhuram is hidam. Ajanmasapyad. So madhuryad avidahitwad. That is another important property. Generally, Vidaham is an adverse feature of almost all types of Sneha. During the process of Bhajana, all stuffs go through a stage of Vidaha. It is not what is mentioned here. Here the Vidaha indicates some sort of a unwanted or unexpected or a morbid type of interaction of that Sneha with Ushna. When the Sneha, Sniktha property engages in some sort of a morbid interaction with Ushna Virya, that creates a compromise in the stability of the Sneha, Asthira Sneham, which will be transferred to the Rasadhadu, and that Rasadhadu, which is going to disperse off the Asthira Sneham, can create Dhadu Shaidhilyam, Indriya Shaidhilyam, Pandu. All these things can develop. Kritam is having the unique property that it is Sniktham, meantime highly Shidhavidyam. So the risk of Vidaham is comparatively minimal while you consume Kritam. Of course, it is again stage specific, avastha specific. We have to be very cautious regarding that usage. Anyway, we will come to it later. So madhuryad avidahitwad janmadhyevacha sheelanad. Kritam may be considered as the first sneham from outside that is given to a baby, a child. So that advantage is there. That means it is avidahi and janmadhyevacha sheelanad. So all these properties make Kritam the best sneha among the shortlisted of shortlisted 4 snehas. So I repeatedly mention that it is stage specific. The use of Krida is stage specific. In general, we have to have a good idea about what is that stage or how to identify it clinically. That is very significant. So in general, the instruction given in Jwara Chikilsitam for the use of Krita Kalpana or Krita can be considered as a standard instruction having Vyapti everywhere. By and large, it is like this. I'm quoting from Ashtanga Hridayam only. Kashayapana Pathyannair Dashaha iti lankhide sarpirdadyad. There are multiple things. Number 1 is the kalam in terms of kshanadi. Dashaha iti lankhite. After 10 days of lankhana, how the lankhana is done? Kashaya pana pathyannaihi, with the proper prescription or proper consumption of kashaya panam and pathyannam. Then after completing 10 days, dashaham iti lankhite, then sarpir dadyad, you can try sarpis, making sure that kabhe mande vada pittottare jware. Kabhe mande. After 10 days of lankhana, the kabha should be weak. Kabhe mande. The shleshma kshaya should happen. Shleshma kshaya should happen, and the doshic predominance should be vada pittottare. Vada pitta uttaram, vada pittolbanam, predominated by the presence of vada and pitta. So kashayapana pathyannairdashaha iti lankhite sarpirdadyad kabhe mande vada pittottare jware. That is the way in which you have to use sarpis or kridam in jwara chikitsa, and this can be considered as a baseline instruction wherever it is. But the next two lines are equally important. The next two lines in Jwara Chikitsita, immediately following the two lines which we already read out, it goes like this: Pakveshu dosheshu amrudam. Sarpis is Pakveshu dosheshu. So to make the doshas pakvam, to remove the samada, to make the dosha nirama, that is what we were looking for in the last 10 days of Jwara Chikitsita with the Kashaya Panam and Pathyannam. And Pakveshu dosheshu, this sarpis is going to work like amritam. Pakveshu dosheshu amritam. Otherwise, tad vishobamam anyatha, if it is not given properly or promptly, when you achieve this sort of a pakva doshata, if still there is presence of amam, the doshas are still samam, then vishobamam, this surface is going to be vishobamam. Dashahe syadadi devi. So at that time, this kshanadi kala ganana is immaterial. Doesn't matter that you have covered 10 days. The point is Vyadhyavastha, that kabhe mande vada pittottare, the doshas have become nirama, pakwa, then pakveshu dosheshu amritam. So if you are pretty sure that this avastha is achieved on the 6th day or the 5th day, doesn't matter, you need not wait for another 5 more days to make it 10. You can start giving kridam. So Vyadhyavastha is counted more as a smarter value than the kshanadi avastha. Pakveshu dosheshu amritam tad vishopamamanyatha dashahe syadaditepi jvaropadrava vruddhikrit. It is going to increase the jvaropadrava potentials. Then in visarpam, parisarpam is the one we find in the list given here in Krita. In general, in Visarpam, all types of snehas are contraindicated very strictly in the beginning. But here we find that Kshadakshina Parisarpa Shastragni Glapitatmanam Shastam Prashastam, it is excellent in the usage, in its usage in the cases of Parisarpa, Visarpa. But in Visarpam, we find that Adaveva visarpeshu hidam lankhana rukshanam, not snehana. So even though we find krita as indicated here in the sutrasthana Dravadravya Vidnyaniyam, when you go to the visarpa chikilsidam, the very chikilsa starts with the statement that Adaveva visarpeshu hidam lankhana rukshanam riktavasego vamanam virego, and with a special emphatic voice, it is told that Snehanam na tu. Snehanam na tu. Don't venture into the usage of kritam in the first stage of Visarpa. So here the Parisarpam or Visarpam is so stage specific. Again, in one point in Visarpa Chikilsa, we find that Nakridam Bahudoshaya Deyam Yem Na Virejanam. Bahudoshaya Kridam Na Deyam Na Virejanam. That is also important because Tena Dosho Hi Upastabdhaha Twagrekta Pisitam Pached. Very dangerous. Twagrekta Pisita Pajanam in Visarpam is fatal. That is switching over to Asadhyavastha. It is going to be fatal. So, Nakhdam Bahudosh. So, in spite of all these warnings, we find that Kritam is excellent, Shastam in Parisarpa. So, we have to understand that it is Avastha Visishtam, stage specific. And what is that stage? Exactly what we find in Jwara Chikilsa. In Visarpa Chikilsidam, what we saw in Jwara Chikilsidam is explained in a different style, but the stuff is same. It goes like this. Nirame Shleshmani Kshine Vadapittotare Hitam Kritam. Nirame Shleshmani Kshine Vadapittotare Hitam Kritam Tiktam Mahatiktam Shrudam Vatrayamanaya. Three options. Forget it. You may have a fourth or fifth option. Doesn't matter. But the remaining, the rest of this shloka is so important. Nirame. So there we find Pakveshu Dosheshwamritam. So it is specified here as Nirame. There we find Kabhe Mande. Here we find Shleshmani Kshine. Then there we find Vada Pittotare. Here also it is Vada Pittotare Kritam. Sorry, Hitam Kritam. So the usage of Kritam in Parisarpam, which we find in the Krita, is Avastha Visishtam. Very, very specific. Fine. So in short, forget about the Kritam, forget about anything else. All medicines, all prescriptions, all advices, what we find in the textbooks are Avastha Visishtam. Don't take them for granted. Don't take them. Tasmada Sadhyapi Nirdeshe Kuryaduhya Swayam Dhiya. These are the letters to be engraved in our deep in our mind always. Tasmad Sadhyapi Nirdeshe Kuryaduhya Swayam Dhiya. Even if something is advocated, don't take it for granted outright. Kuryaduhya Swayam Dhiya. You put your intelligence, your knowledge, your wisdom into it and test it and get convinced. Then only you try doing it. So that is very important. Fine. Then in certain texts, Kritam can be seen as specifically contraindicated as well. Kritam is Snehottamam, no doubt. But we can find Kritam as contraindicated as well. In certain avasthas, in certain vyadhi, again in certain vyadhi avasthas as well. And interestingly, we can find Bala and Vritha in it. So we find this Krita indicated in Bala and Vritha alike in some stage, but later when this Krita is contraindicated, there also we find Bala and Vritha because it is specific. According to the stage only you can use, because in Balyam there is risk of unwanted Kabhavritti. In Varthakyam there is chance of severe Agnimandya and Srodokharata. In both these conditions, Kritam may not be a good choice. So Kritam in Balyam, Kritam in Varthakyam is to be prescribed with a proper understanding of the status of Agni and Srotas. So in general, the contraindication what I explained can be seen specifically in Nikhandus, especially in Bhava Prakasham. It goes like this: Raja Yakshmani Balecha Vruddhe Shleshma Krute Gade Roge Same Vishuchyam Cha Vibandhe Cha Madatye Jware Cha Dahane Mande Na Sarpir Bahumanyate. I will repeat. Raja Yakshmani. We find that it is good in Shosham. Kritam is excellent in Shosham. That is what we saw earlier. Kshadakshina Parisarvada Pitta Vishonmada Shosha. So it is Shoshapaham. But here it is contraindicated. Because in Raja Yakshma, the biggest problem is Agnimandyam. Both Jadhara Agnimandyam and Dhatu Agnimandyam. Rasopyasyana rektaya mamsaya kuta evatu. That is what we find the description about the situation in Raja Yakshma. So all the Srodasas are Shleshmobaliptam in Raja Yakshma. You cannot give Kritam. So this Shosham is also stage specific. First you have to address the prevailing situation of Agnimandyam Sroda Upalebam with Dushta Shleshma. Make the Agni Deeptam, make the Srotas Shuddham. Then you try Kritam in Raja Yakshma. So here we find Krita as contraindicated in Raja Yakshma, which is a general instruction. Whereas the advice to use Kritam in Raja Yakshma is a specific condition. One is Samanyam, the other one is Vishishtam. Raja Yakshmani Balecha Vruddhe Shleshma Krite Gade. Shleshma Krite Gade. All diseases which are caused or precipitated by Shleshma. Shleshma Krite Gade. Don't try Kritam. Roge Same. When there is Samata. Amena tena sampruktaha dosha dushyascha dushida sama ityupadishyante yecha rogas tadudbhava. So roge same vishuchyam, which is a we saw it in Matrashidiyam. So it is related to the Ashana dosham, Agnimandyam and related issues. Vibandhecha, which is caused by Shleshma. Not in all types. Madatye, again, it is stage specific. Jwarecha, we already saw it. In Jwara, generally, Krita is contraindicated, but when the time comes, you have to make use of it. Dahane Mande, a very general important point. Dahane Mande, Dahane means, Dahana means Agni. Mande Agnau. Dahane Mande means Mande Agnau. Na Sarpir Bahumanyate. Bahumanyate. It is not respected. Krita, the use of Krita is not regarded as a good choice. Na Krito Bahumanyate. So this Shleshma Krite Gade or Shleshma Ulbane Roge Same Dahane Mande. These causes or clauses are of prime importance. And we find that Sahasra Viryam Vidhibhisridam Karma Sahasrakrit. So Kritam is told as having Sahasra Viryam and having Sahasra Karma Krit. It is Sahasra Viryam and it can perform Sahasra Karma also. Arunadatta can be seen explaining here as Sahasram. Sahasra Shabdo Anega Arthaha. Anega Shakti ityartha. Anega Shakti. How? vidhibhihi shrutam. When it is vidhibhihi, as per the vidhi, when krita is prepared, shrutam, it can have sahasraviryam. Because it has got excellent samskaranuvartana property. So you prepare kritam with different types of medications, different types of combinations. You get different types of properties according to that samskara. All the thaila or the vasa, majja types of sneha is having these properties, but krida excel. Among all these snehas, the capacity of samskara anuvartanam is outstanding as far as krida is concerned. And that sahasra viryam can have many ranges of viryam. That is not just about the different grades of shidam or ushnam, but is about karmakarana sheshi, the potential to deliver. Viryam is the capacity to deliver karma. Sarva virya krita hisa, na viryam kurude kinjit. Sarva vidya kritahi sa. So that karma karana sheshi is the vidya. This is achieved by that yukti yukta processing the kritam properly with the different medicines. Different types of kritapagam we all know, like that mridurnasye gharo bhyange pane vastau cha chikkana. So mridupagam, chikkanapagam and gharapagam we see as a general rule in sneha kalpana. So that also makes difference in the viryam of the krita. That also makes the differences in the karma karana sheshi of krita. Then the different kalpanas, we find amrita prasha kritam, we find dhatriadi kritam, rasnadi kritam, many types, induganta kritam. Everything is having different properties and very specific also, according to the dravam or kalkam used. And accordingly, kridam becomes karma sahasrakrit. Karma sahasrakrit. So that is a brief about the potential of using kridam as a medicine or even as a food. Then it follows with, of course, there may be something else which we will find maybe while we explaining the rest of the krita kalpanas or krita vidhi, we will find something extra. Now we switch over to the Purana Krita. Purana Kritam is explained as in the text as Madavasmara Murchaya Shira Karna Kshiyonijan Puranam Jayadi Vyadhin. Madavasmara Murchaya Shira Karna Kshiyonijan Puranam Jayadi Vyadhin. Vranashodhana Ropanam. There are many other words which I did not explain. Actually, everybody knows it, that Vayasasthavanam, all these things. I don't think that we will find much time on it. Madavasmara Murchaya Shira Karna Kshiyonijan Vyadhin Puranam Kridam Jayadi. Puranam Kridam Madavasmara Murchaya Shira Karna Kshiyonijan Vyadhin Jayadi. And it is also Vrana Shodhana Ropanam. It is Vrana Shodhana Ropanam. That is the properties of Purana Kritam. Puranam is defined, can be seen, defined by Arunadatta as Adida Bahukalam. You can see it. Adida Bahukalam. Panjadashadi Varshasthitam. 5 years or 10 years. Adida Bahukalam. So which krita has gone through bahukala, long time, years together, kept properly, preserved properly, is known as Purana Kritam. Purana Kritam cures certain conditions like Madam, Apasmaram, Murchayam, Shirorogam, Karnarogam, Akshirogam, and Yonirogam. Actually, this list is somewhat highly generalized, and it can be used in almost all conditions of these diseases which are explained. You need not be very specific about the avastha. Even otherwise, this can be used when compared with the general krita use. Doesn't matter that it is always and everywhere it can be used outright, but little bit more generalized. And this Purana Kritam is Vrana Shodhana Ropanam. Vrana Shodhanatvam and Vrana Ropanatvam is attributed. This Vrana Shodhanatvam is generally for Dushta Vrana, because Shodhanam is a need for Dushta Vrana. Whereas Ropanatvam is for both. Even in Sadhyo Vranam, you can try Purana Kritam with maybe a few drops of Mathu. Like it will be healing that Sadhyo Vranam even better than common Krita and Mathu. Normal Krita and Mathu. It is excellent. I have experienced it in my practice. There are different types of Purana Kritam explained based on the time period for which they are to be kept. Generally, the Kritam which is kept for 10 years is known as Purana. That is the most accepted protocol, which is kept for 10 years. We can find some sort of a documentation in Charaka Samhita. Ugragandham Puranam Syad. Yeah, it is there in that Hemadri commentary. Ugragandham Puranam Syad. Deshavarshasthitam Kritam. Deshavarshasthitam Kritam. When it is kept, it stands for 10 years continuously in a properly preserved, properly kept manner. It becomes Laksharasamibham. Laksharasamibham. It becomes like the rasam of Laksha, which is maybe a dark red. Laksharasamibham. Then Sheetam. Sheetam as well. That is always a very important feature. The Purana Kritam is becoming very Tikshnam, Ugra Gandham, and still it maintains its Shita Vidyam. So as far as the proper potential of Kritam is concerned, I think we have to make sure that it is still Shita. When it turns out to be Ushnam, I think the entire property may be changing. Prapurana Mataparam. After 10 years, it is known as Prapurana Kritam. Prapurana Mataparam. There are many other references or documents or testimonials regarding the different types of Purana Kritam, their usages, their properties and everything in different works, Samhitas and everything. One such reference, very interesting, is that on reaching 11 years, its properties are becoming much superior. Varsham Egadasham Prapya, it becomes Sarvadoshaharam Shivam. So generally, Kritam is Vadapittaharam. But on holding it for 11 years, Varsham Egadasham Prapya, Sarvadoshaharam Shivam. It becomes Sarvadoshaharam and Shivam. My request to all Vaidyas is that start collecting Kritam every year. Every year you make at least maybe 1 kilogram of good quality Go Kritam and keep it with proper labeling in a good glass vessel or the ceramic vessel or at least in a stainless steel vessel. Label it and make your own Purana Kritam. This is excellent. This Purana Kritam is having unbelievable properties, but it cannot be purchased, it cannot be maintained, made out with some medicine, nothing like that. You have to be patient enough. You have to have the perseverance to go on with collecting of ghee for you, at least your own personal use, personal practice, I mean. So start collecting, please. Make it a New Year resolution. Then on reaching 11 years, we find that it becomes Sarvadoshaharam Shivam. And there are some compromises as well. Interestingly, as the time goes by, I think as it is happening everywhere and in every affair, compromises come. Later, we can find Bhava Mishra making a statement that even if the Krita stands for 1 year, it can be considered as Purana. I would say that it is a big compromise. In Bhava Prakasham, we find Varshad Urdhvam Bhaved Ajyam Puranam. I don't think that it is true, and I have not experienced the properties of Purana Kridam after 1 year. But he makes such a statement. Varshad Urdhvam Bhaved Ajyam Puranam Tatridoshanut Murcha Kushta Vishonmadavasmara Timirabaham. Ideally, it should stand for 10 years. That is what my personal opinion is. Bhava Mishra observes that this Kritam, which is 1 year, can be considered as Puranam. And but at the same time, he admits the fact that longer the Krita is kept, the properties become more and more enhanced. So I'm pretty sure that that 1 year formula is a compromise. Yatha yatha akhilam sarpi puranam adhigam bhaved. Yatha yatha akhilam sarpihi puranam adhigam bhaved. Tadha tadha gunaihi svai svaihi adhigam tadudahridam. So the longer it is kept, the better the qualities are. So there is no debate over it. Then there are some strange ideas of making or keeping the Krita for very long years, like 100 years, 111 years. I do not know who is going to be the beneficiary of such collection. But anyway, I think if you start collecting now, your next generation or the next generation may be of use, maybe of some benefit out of your collection. It is known as Kumbha Sarpis. When the Kritam turns 111 years old, it is called Kumbha Sarpis. And thereafter, it will be known as Mahakritam. Interestingly, personally, I had the luxury of getting some Kumbha Sarpis from a very old Brahmin house in Kerala. And I still have that Kumbha Sarpis with me, which is having very pungent, very unpleasant odor, and which is very tikshna in its all behavior. Sushruta can be seen documenting this Kumbha Sarpihi. It looks like a Prakshipta Slogam in Sushruta Samhita. I do not know whether it is originally written by Sushruta or added by somebody later. The sloga goes like this. Egadasha sadam chaiva valsaranushidam kridam rakshokhnam kumbha sarpisyad. Something which has stood 111 years is Rakshokhnam, and its name is Kumbha Sarpihi. Paradastu, afterwards it is known as Mahakritam. Paradastu Mahakritam. Peyam Mahakritam Bhudaihi Kabhakhnam Pavanadhigai. Balyam Pavitram Medhyam Cha Visheshat Timirapaham. actually attracted by this Vishesha Timirapaham, I decided to use this Kumbha Sarpis, which is there with me, in cases of certain eye diseases. And believe me, before this Kumbha Sarpis is so Tikshnam that the person who applies this Kumbha Sarpis in his eyes will maybe kill you if you are very near to his vicinity. Such burning pain it creates, this Kumbha Sarpis. So what we used to do is generally little bit of this Kumbha Sarpis added with plenty of some other Kritam like Padoladi Kritam or something like that, and then use it, which makes the entire situation more manageable. So it is Timirapaham, but make sure that it is not applied directly. Then Sarva Bhudaharam Chaiva, Kritamedat Prashasyate. This is what we find in Sushruta Samhita. Dalhana can be seen explaining at this point. That means Purana Kritam is 10 years old, which is Sarpi Puranam. It is 10 years. And generally, Sushruta is very eloquent about these properties of Krita and everything related to that Prapurana Kritam and everything. He is giving us a beautiful description about the benefits of Purana Kritam. Sarpit Puranam, Saram, Kadu Vipagam, Tridoshapaham, Murcha Madonmada, Udara, Jwara, Gara, Shosha, Apasmara, Yoni Shrotrakshi Shirashulakhnam, Deepanam, Vasti Nasya Apuraneshu Upadishyate. Vasti Nasya Apuraneshu Upadishyate. You can use them in the forms of Vasti Nasya Apuranam as well. Then Puranam Timirashwasapina Sajwarakasanut Murcha Kushtha Vishonmadagrahapasmaranasanam. I'm repeating all these lines and these conditions again and again because we meet with these conditions very often, and it is not that easy to take control over these clinical situations with our common medications. So my intention is that you should be tempted and you will start making Purana Kritam from tomorrow onwards. So that is why I am repeating. Then in certain situations, even though this Purana Kritam is having all these properties, and we find that the longer it is kept, the better it becomes in its properties. There are certain conditions where this Navakritam itself should be used. You are not supposed to go for Purana Kritam. The situations are like Yojayed Navamevajyam Bhojane. When you use it as a food, you are not supposed to go for Purana Kritam. Bhojane Navameva Ajyam Yojayed. Then Tarpane, in Netra Tarpanam, you cannot even think about doing a Netra Tarpanam with the Purana Kritam. You should use Navakritam. Tarpane, Shrame, to remove the Shramam. You are not supposed to go for Purana Kritam. Balakshaye, in Balakshaya, Navakritam. Panduroge, Navakritam. Kamala, Netrarogayoho, Kamala, Netrarogayoho. In all these conditions, you are not supposed to give this Purana Kritam internally. So even in Netra Roga, it is used as local applications. yojayen navamevajyam bhojane tarpane shrame balakshaye panduroge kamala netrarogayoho. The other day we concluded our last session with that Kshirodbhava Navanidam. If that Kshirodbhava Navanidam is converted to Khritam, it becomes a different stuff. That is known as Kshirodbhava Khritam or Dukthabhava Khritam. That is the Khritam which is made from the Navanidam, which is Kshirodbhava. It can be considered as a separate thing. Khridam Dukthabhavam Grahi. The rest of the properties are almost same. Dukthabhavam Khritam is Grahi. Sheetalam. Sheetalam, it is more Sheetam. It is more Sheetam. Netraroganut. So you can prepare many of the Tarpana Khrida with this Kshirodbhava Khritam. Nihandi Pittadahasra Madamurcha Brahmanilan. So it also has got very interesting list of properties. Then coming to our regular literature about the Chikilsa and everything, we find the utility of all these Kritas or Krita Kalpanas in many forms. Unmadam, we find Kritam, Purana Kritam as the Agriyam, isn't it? Unmade Kritam Anavam, it is the Agriyam. And we can find usages as well. In Netra Chikilsa, we find the use of Purana Kritam here and there. In Krichronmeelam, Krichronmeele Puranajyam Drakshakalkambusadhitam Sasidam Yojayed. Krichronmeele Puranajyam Drakshakalkambusadhitam Sasidam Yojayed. This is very effective as well. In Ashtanga Sangraham, we find almost the same explanation of Purana Kridam as we find in Ashtanga Hridayam, maybe a little bit twisted as far as the shloka is concerned. Madapasmara Murchayan Shirakarnakshiyonijan Puranam Jaya Divyadhin Vranashodhana Robanam. Very good. Up to this, it is almost the same. But then there is a third line in Ashtanga Sangraha. There is a third line given, and that third line tells us that Purana Kritam has got all the properties of Kritam in general in an enhanced manner or in an enhanced level, and it is Amrutopama. That is one special graduation made by Ashtanga Sangraha. Purvoktamscha adhikan kuryad gunan tad Amrutopamam. So Purana Kritam is explained as Amrutopamam by Vriddhavakbhada. Now, one more line is there in Ashtanga Sangraham, which is about Kridamandam. Which is about Kridamandam. Kridamandam is the clear top portion of the Kridam. When you make the Kridam, there will be a clear top portion which denies or which does not solidify it. That is known as Kridamandam. That is also regarded as a separate stuff by some authors, like Ashtanga Sangraha, what we find. The properties of Kridamandam explained by Ashtanga Sangraham is like this. Tadvacha Kridamandobi. Tadvacha, after explaining Kridam, Purana Kridam, then he comes with this Tadvacha Kridamandobi. So Kridamanda is also like this. That means it has all the properties of Kridam and Purana Kridam. So the Purana Krida properties also can be expected with the Kridamandam. So there is a chance of using this Kridamandam as a substitute for Purana Kridam, at least in some situations, which you can try. And Rukshaha, that is very interesting. A Krita preparation or a part of Krita made is Ruksha. Kritam is supposed to be the best Sneha, whereas Kritamandam is explained as Ruksham. And Tikshnam and Tanutin. So Rukshastikshnastanuscha saha tadvacha kritamandobi Rukshastikshnastanuscha saha. And when considering that this is a sneha dravya basically, but rukshada is attributed, don't expect that this will be an exactly ruksha dravya, maybe a comparative notion. It is less snigdha than what we expect in the case of normal krita. Very close. Actually, this snigdha and rukshata or ushnada and shitata are all some sort of a grading on the same scale, no? So where it is getting placed, that is going to be decisive in making or making a notion that this dravya is ruksha or this dravya is sneha. So here it is called as, it is explained as ruksha. Maybe it shows its nearness towards the x-axis through the y-axis. So that may be the only difference. So if you think deeply into it, logically, this Kritamandam may work in situations where Vayu is Mudham and has become Nischalam. To release such Nischala Vayu, to make it more chalam, this ruksha tikshna properties of a sneha dravya like Kritamanda may be beneficial. In Vadavyadhi, we find such a use. In Vadavyadhi, we find Balavilvasrudam, Balavilvasrude Kshire. The Kshira is prepared with the Balavillu. Balavilvasrude Kshire Kritamandam Vipajayed. Kritamanda Kalpana, Kritamandam Vipajayel, Tasya Sukti, Pragunjova Nasyam Vade Shirogade. In Shirogada Vada Vyadhis, you define what is the Shirogada Vayu. You take it in your own interest, your own requirement, what is the Shirogada Vayu. But don't forget that you are using Kritamandam, which is Ruksham and Tikshnam. Then it's Nasyam. The Nasyam with this Bala Villu Srude Kshire Kritamandam Vipajayed Tasya Sukti Pragunjova Nasyam Vade Shirogade. So it may open up a new set of usages in many irreversible, otherwise irreversible Vadavyadhis confined to or having Sthana Samshraya in the Shiras. So that is about Kritamandam. I think we have covered a big deal of portions regarding the Kritam, Purana Kritam, its different types, and this Kritamandam. It is almost more than 1 hour. I think we will conclude today. Nilesh, I think we will stop here to continue in our next session with the rest of the Kshira Vikaras. Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
couple
sir.
of
Yes, sir.
comments in
Definitely,
the
definitely.
chat box. Ashwin has mentioned that since 24 years I'm making Purana Kritam. Very good, excellent. I think every Vaidya should be doing this because you cannot purchase it over the counter from a pharmacy or so, or in Amazon. Then another point, where and how in Unmada Purana Krita can be used. It can be used in Unmada like internal use. It can be tried. For Dhupanam, it can be tried. For Abhyangam, it can be tried. So there are many types of uses for Purana Kritam in Unmada. Yeah, Vaidya Diwali started collecting since 2018. So she had maybe 2-year-old Purana Kritam. Then Prasham has got 8 years. Fine. Very good. I hope next year when we assemble again for discussing this Dravadravya, there will be at least 20-25 more people who have started collecting Purana Kritam. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Sir, I just wanted to add few more points.
Yes, please.
Uh,
Yeah, more and more people
while
are coming
collecting
with
this
the Purana Kritam. Please, Nilesh,
Yes,
please
I
go
think
ahead.
it's yes. While using Purana Grita, what I learned from my guru, that we are
Mm.
not using it in a bulk quantity. Say
Mm.
in Vrana or like this, we are using 1 or 2 teaspoon
Mm.
for every time. So
Yes.
what we used to do, we used to add 1 or 2 teaspoon, or say half of the quantity which we have used, simple
Mm.
go ghrita, Purana
Mm.
Grita.
Mm.
So the quantity of Purana Grita is maintained,
Yes.
and
Mm.
the quality also is maintained.
Mm.
So once what we can say, we start using that Purana Grita after 10 years,
Mm.
the quantity which we are taking from it, half of the quantity we can add to it, so that
Mm.
the Grita which added, it becomes of the
Mm.
same what we can say quality after
Yes.
some, say, 1 month or 2 months, like that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, and we are also collecting. I am personally collecting since 10 years.
Very good.
Hello.
Yes.
Namaskar, sir. Sir, just by smelling the gruta
Mm.
can be used in treatment, like because every time if we use the gruta, the quantity will be reduced. So, can we use just to give smell and achieve the properties? Means I don't
Uh,
know. I want to know more.
there are some situations where this akrananam of krita is beneficial, but in many situations that will not be sufficient. We are treating, especially when we are treating with this special kids, we use little bit of this sort of krita for dhupanam. Then obviously we have to use little bit, some quantity we have to use. Then sometimes we use this for abhyangam. Then, as Vaidya Nilesh told, it will not be used as such. It will be mixed with some other form of ghee, and then it will be used as, say, for example, Mahapaishajika Kridam added with little bit of this Purana Kridam can be used for a bit. So I think there will be a reduction in quantity every time you use it. Of course, as a general line, I think this Akrananam also has having some benefit, no doubt. But certain situations it will not be sufficient.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And
Okay.
and also, sir, it can be used as anjan also in certain cases of unmad and apasmar.
Yes.
We have used
Yes.
this. We have used it as anjan also. So as a tikshna anjan, and it
Yes.
works
Yes. Very
excellent
Tikshnam.
at that time.
Mm. Mm. Anyway, now we have a huge bulk of
Yes,
information
yes,
about Kritam.
yes. So we can conclude, sir, today.
Yeah. Yeah. Please have a great weekend to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Prasad, sir. Thank you, everyone.